This video shows the introduction of the book Climate Change. In 1972, the leading Western geologists gathered at Brown University, and at the end of the conference they felt compelled to write a letter to the President of the United States. In the first two paragraphs we read, "Aware of your deep concern with the future of the world, we feel obliged to inform you on the results of the scientific conference held here recently. The conference dealt with the past and future changes of climate and was attended by 42 top American and European investigators. We enclose the summary report published in Science, and further publications are forthcoming in quaternary research." The main conclusion of the meeting was that a global deterioration of climate, by order of magnitude larger than any hitherto experienced by civilized mankind, is a very real possibility and indeed may be due very soon. The cooling has natural cause and falls within the rank of processes which produced the last ice age. This is a surprising result, based largely on recent studies of deep-sea sediments. In the oceans, water is present as isotope oxygen-16 and isotope oxygen-18. Isotope oxygen-16 is lighter and its water evaporates. During ice ages, water remains trapped in the ice, and in the oceans the isotope oxygen-16 decreases. The lower the ratio between these two isotopes, the greater is the water trapped in the ice. The shell of crustaceans maintains the ratio between these two isotopes, and when they die, their shells deposit on the seabed, creating sediments that allow to date this ratio. The quaternary graph displays the ratio between these two isotopes and shows that the first glaciation occurred just over 3 million years ago. The sun is getting colder. In 2014, an astrophysicist led by Valentina Zarkova discovered that the sun has two layers that emit heat, one internal and one external. When the electromagnetic waves of heat emitted by the two layers interfere constructively, they add up and the sun is hot. When they interfere destructively, the sun is cold. Using this model to reconstruct the past, the accuracy results to be 97%. Using it to predict the future, we find that in 2032 the sun's heat will drop significantly, triggering the next ice age. Ice retains the information present in the snow. The snow forms layers of ice that allow to date the values of temperatures, CO2, volcanic dust, and more. These data are obtained from ice cores in Antarctica and are very precise and detailed. In the first line of the graph we have the temperatures. In the second, the CO2, and in the third, the volcanic dust. We are on the right of the graph, and the more we go to the left, the more we go back in time, up to over 400,000 years ago. Looking in more details, at the beginning of the Ice Age, the reduction in temperatures is gradual. We will have about 10,000 years to find solutions before the sun's heat drops by 60%. At this point, life on the surface of the planet Earth will become impossible, even near the equator. CO2 is not the cause of climate changes. In the graph, it can be observed that temperatures always vary before CO2. In the rectangle on the left, relative to the last interglacial era, we see that temperature decreased before CO2. And in the rectangle on the right, relative to the beginning of our interglacial era, temperatures increased before CO2. First, temperatures rise and then CO2. First, temperatures decrease and then CO2. CO2 changes occur after and not before temperature changes. This means that CO2 is not the cause of climate changes, of the increase or decrease in temperatures, but is a consequence of them. CO2 is the nourishment of life. CO2 varies after temperatures because CO2 is the gas of life. Life is made of carbon. The higher the temperatures, the greater the presence of life, and the greater the CO2 that living organisms release into the environment. When ice ages begin, life decreases, and consequently, also CO2 decreases. CO2 is essential for life. Plants and trees feed on the carbon taken from CO2. Thanks to photosynthesis. When CO2 decreases, it becomes more difficult for plants to nourish and grow. Reducing CO2 limits the nutrition for plants and trees. For example, in greenhouses, to increase productivity of plants, methane burners are used which emit CO2 into the air. Increasing CO2 increases the productivity of greenhouses. CO2 is required to grow trees and plants. Reducing CO2 triggers famines and threatens the very existence of life. Censorship. Scientific studies on the impending ice age previously published in authoritative journals have been removed. And all the climatologists who study this topic are censored. Climate information is left to people like Greta Thunberg, while experts are ousted from information networks, as is the case of Judith Curry, a climatologist with a chair at the Georgia Institute of Technology and over 140 scientific publications on climate, and Antonio Zichichi, one of the top Italian scientists and famous popularizer, who since he publicly stated that global warming depends on the power of the sun and human activities affected at the level of 5%, while 95% depends on natural phenomena related to the sun, was cut off from all the information networks. Finally, CO2 does not pollute and is not a greenhouse gas. The book Climate Change is available on Amazon at the lowest possible price and in the books section of the Syntropia.it website, where it is available free of charge in the PDF version and as a video book.